Yay! Okay, so you add it to your table of contents. I'm going to scroll. We'll start at the very front of the foldable. Make sure you have some color pencils. If your laptop's out, put that away for now. Okay, got my colors. Okay, so rotations. Rotations are rigid motions. What does a rigid motion mean? Same size, shape, all of that stuff. So these are rigid motions, which means preserves your same size, shape, lengths, angles, all of those things, right? So we just have a picture. This is just an example of a figure that has been rotated. Now, if you were here on Friday, we did actually trace things. We stabbed them on the point of rotation, and we spun things around to see where they ended up, right? Now, today we're going to go through the rules and visualize what it looks like to spin stuff. We're not going to actually trace and spin anything today. Okie dokie? Do know that you can always trace and spin on your own. We just won't do it together. Now, here's the deal. Remember that, do you need the foldable? Remember that on the OST, they give you plain paper and graph paper and a plain old pencil. Now remember, you are allowed to bring in colored pencils, so that's not going to be a problem. You also know that you can trace with regular paper, right? Just because they don't give you a piece of patty paper does not mean that you cannot take your regular paper. How do you trace something on your screen? Turn up the brightness, lay it on there, trace it, spin it, right? So just because they don't actually give you patty paper does not mean you cannot trace and spin, okay? So that option is there. And even if they give you a piece of graph paper, you can even put something on graph paper that's traced and spun, in theory, right? Because you can enlarge your screen by doing your plus and minus things, right? So there are some things you can do on your screen, even if they don't give you actual patty paper. Okie dokie? Okay, so some things to remember that are true. Any point in its image are the same distance. So any point in its image are the same distance. So that means if I look at this picture right here, if I were to connect point P to B and point P to B prime, the length of this line and the length of this line, oh my gosh, don't tell me my thing's going to do this. I'm going to have to start it over again. Look. I don't have to restart the whole thing. I'm just going to shut down this. I think we need some new laptops. Yeah, the teachers do.
Yeah, I think these are a little slow.
You guys have newer laptops than we do, just for the record. So if you think yours are bad, think about mine. The number of times in a day I have to restart is crazy. It's a lot of waste of time. Okay, here we go. I know. So the point and the image are the same distance away. So that means if I were to connect this piece and this piece, the length of this and the length of this are going to be the same length. Okay? Which makes sense, because if you think about, if you have a point of rotation, you're spinning it around, same length all the way around, right? So that kind of makes sense in your head, hopefully. Okay, they next give us this little table, or not this little picture, and it reminds you what clockwise and counterclockwise are. The quadrants. Sometimes they'll ask you what quadrant does it fall in after you reflect it and rotate it. So you got to know the names of your quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4. Also, they do abbreviate clockwise like CW. So if you just see CW, you know that means clockwise. Likewise, counterclockwise is CCW. So if you see CCW, it's just because they don't want to write out counterclockwise all that thing. This, make sure that you know this. The default direction is counterclockwise. That means if they don't tell you which way to go, you go counterclockwise. Got it? You know what default means. They don't tell you, go counterclockwise. So if you hear me say rotate 90 degrees and I don't say which way, and the question doesn't say which way, you go counterclockwise. Which is kind of backwards in my head because I always want to think default is like the clock, but it's backwards, don't know. So do make sure you note that. You do know the big major ones. 90 is 1/4, 180 is a halfway around, 270 is 3/4 of the way, and then obviously 360 is all the way around. So just make sure you know those. Okay, next part, you're going to be mad at me because this chart you basically need to memorize.
Oh, man.
I'm going to tell you what parts you need to memorize though. So this you definitely need to memorize. Part of this. So this chart does counterclockwise about the origin. So when you're spinning around the origin, there are some certain rules. Now remember last week when we did stuff, remember how like if the point was 5,7, we knew when we spun it, it was a combination of 5s and 7s, maybe positives, maybe negatives, right? So we do know there is a pattern. So this tells us what the pattern is, okay? Now these are counterclockwise, so you might want to put counterclockwise here. 180, does it matter? Which way you go?
Yeah.
If you are 180 degrees from here, won't you just be down here if I went this way or that way? So this way, this you don't have to be specific. Somebody could say either way or nothing, and it doesn't matter. You're going to get the right answer anyways, as long as you go 180. This is counterclockwise. What about 360? Does 360 matter? All the way around means all the way around. You're back where you started. So would it matter if I turn this way or that way? No, I'm going to end up in the exact same spot when I'm done. Okay, so when you memorize, here's the deal. Some people are better at memorizing numbers and figures and letters, and some people are better at memorizing words. I'm better at memorizing words. So when you memorize this, you can choose to either memorize this or this. Okay? Your choice, because either one's going to give you the right answer, right? I usually stick with the words, and I don't even memorize all of this. I just memorize flip and negate the left and right, flip and negate the right, and I don't even memorize that because you're going to end up at the exact same spot if you go 360. So the stuff that I just highlighted in yellow, I just chose to memorize. You know what I mean? If you want to choose this middle column to memorize, that's fine too. For me, the middle column, I can memorize it, but then like in 2 weeks, I don't remember it because it was just random letters with negatives. So totally up to you. But you do have to memorize. Otherwise, you're stuck trying to spin and make things land without patty paper, and sometimes you're off by some. So yeah, there's that. So today we're not gonna, obviously we're not gonna memorize it today, but today we'll refer back to it so you could see how it'll be a lot easier if you just have it memorized. Okay? All right, let's go into picture number 1 on the inside. Okay, so this is a spatial visual thing, but nobody said you can't get paper and trace and spin, right? You're always allowed to get paper and trace and spin. Okay, let's look at the first one. It says, which of the following transformations will not map the square onto itself? So what should you underline, highlight, circle in that question? Not. Also, which transformation? So what does that tell you? Could be true. Could we have more than one answer? Yeah. So always note some of these things. When I talk about mapping something onto something, they're asking, will it land on itself? So if I say, which of the following transformations will not land on the square itself? So basically when I spin it, will the square still match up perfectly or not? And I'm going to trace it and spin it on the board over here so we can see what it looks like. So I drew the picture right here. See him? Now they only talk about C and E, which is why I only labeled C and E, and I traced it, okay? Now we're going to check every single one because we need to see which ones work and which ones don't. No sleepy time. Okay, so the first one says, a rotation of 180 degrees about C. What's 180 degrees? Halfway around, right? Halfway around is 180. If I say about C, where am I stabbing my paper? On C. Okay, so I have it traced. I'm going to stab on C. I'm going to spin it 180 degrees. So that means this side is going to go to where? How far? Halfway around. So this side's going to end up over here. Will the square land on itself? Yeah. The letters are messed up, but the square is still right exactly on top of the square, right? Because halfway around makes this corner, it makes this corner land over on this corner, right? If I hold it right at C. Stab there, spin it, he lands over there. So this one does land on itself. Now afterwards, we're going to just pick all the knots, but we're just going to check each one. Okay, the next one. A rotation of 180 degrees about E. That means, where am I going to stab the paper this time? On E. So I'm going to be holding it at E and spinning the paper 180. So watch if I hold it at E and go 180. What's going to happen? Does he land on himself? No. He ends up literally over here, right? This is a no. Okay? The third one. Clockwise rotation of 90 about C. So how much is 90? A fourth of the way. Where's clockwise? 90. So this top corner is going to go down to this side. So we're going to take this. We're holding it at C, right? So we're stabbing here. This is going to go 1/4 of the way. Correct? Do you think it's going to land on itself? Okay, let's check. Hold it here, 1/4 of the way. Bam, he lands right on himself. So that one does work. Okay, D. What does CCW mean? Counterclockwise. Remember, counterclockwise rotation of 45 degrees. What's 45 degrees? A half of a quarter. Okay, so we're not moving, and that's counterclockwise. So that means I'm going from here, not all the way, just halfway there. So I'm taking this top corner, counterclockwise, just to about here, right? Because that's 45 degrees, counterclockwise. So if I took that, do you think he's going to land on himself? No, because if I went just a quarter, he's going to end up looking like that, right? So he's going to end up like this. This point is going to be right there. So this one's not going to work. The last one, a rotation of 360 about E. So that means, where am I stabbing it down? On E, and I'm spinning this whole thing 360. And it actually doesn't matter which way I go, right? So I take this whole square and I spin him all the way around. He's going to be exactly the same, because watch. If you hold E all the way around 360, all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, boom, he's going to be right on top of himself, right? So this is good. So to answer that question, which one of these will not? B and D. Now remember, I know sometimes you guys love multiple choice questions, but in the end, multiple choice questions are more work because you got to check every single one. And if you miss one of them or just get one of those 5 wrong, then the whole thing is wrong. Wah wah. Okay, if you're falling asleep, stand up, jump around, and then sit back down. Okay, we're saving number 2 for last. Stand up. Go back there. Look out the window. Hurry up. We're saving number 2 for last because that one is kind of like on a small graph and it's the most complicated. So let's go to number 3. I know. Okay, number 3. Draw the image of the figure under the given rotation about the origin. Circle this. Origin. If it's the origin, then that means you're allowed to use the table. Okay, so we're going to use the table. Shh, no, try not to have side conversations. We want to determine the image of point B. What's the image of point B? Is that the first one or the second one? Image is the second one, so this is the after. So we want the after of B, which is really the B prime, isn't it? Okay, so we want the after of B, which is really B prime. So we are going to be looking for B prime. Okay, we need to do a counterclockwise. Counterclockwise 270. And it's around the origin, so we're allowed to use our table. Okay, so go back to your table. Okay, which row are we going to be using? This one right here, right? Okay, so we're using this. Yep or do? Okay, so since this is our notes, let's go ahead and write this next to this problem. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Okay, so let's write that next to the problem. Okay, so we're going to do flip. Oopsie. Oh my gosh. Flip. I'm having a seizure. Flip and negate. Flip and negate the right. Okay, so if you memorize flip and negate the right, then you could use that. If you memorize the x, y, what does that change to? Y, negative x. Okay, so you got to memorize either the first one or the second one. It doesn't even matter. Either memorize this way or this way. You got to know something. Okay, so that means we need to get the coordinates of this picture. Okay, so look at A, B, C, D in the picture. And can you write down what the coordinates are right now? So write down A, B, C, and D. We need all of these coordinates because we got to do some stuff to it. We got to flip them around or change them. So what are the coordinates of A? Negative 5, 0. Negative 5, 0. Yeah? Okay, what are the coordinates of B? Negative 3, 2. What are the coordinates of C? Negative 1. Negative 3. Are these all good so far? What are the coordinates of D? Negative 5. Negative 3? Okay. So obviously you've got to start with the coordinates because we got to do what it says in the table. Okay. So you might want to do this in stages because if you try to do it all in one step. Chewbacca's in the hallway. Okay, so here's what I do. I flip them all first.
Yeah, today is not I think today we all get
Yeah, I think that's a sign.
No. It is called, it's called perseverance. Okay, so we're gonna convert this. So I'm gonna switch both of the, I'm gonna switch the X and the Y. That's what it says right here. Switch the X and the Y. And then second step, I'm gonna change the sign of the next one. So I'm gonna flip first. I'm gonna do it in 2 steps. Okay, so I'm gonna flip it first. I'm gonna put the 0, comma, -5. I'm just gonna flip first. In other words, reverse the order of them. And this one turns to 2, -3. This one turns to -3, -1. And the last one turns to -3, -5. Now all I did was do the flip. Okay? In other words, put the Y in the X spots. But the next step is I have to negate the one on the right. See this little negative right here? That means I need to change the sign of all of the numbers on the right-hand side. So I'm going to do it in different colors so you see it. So I'm going to go right down the right-hand side. I'm going to change this sign, this sign, this sign, and this sign. Now it just happened to be that all those were negative, but that won't always be the case. If something was negative, I would have changed it out. Okay, and now I have all my new points. So this is my A prime, my B prime, my C prime, and my D prime. And I should be able to put all of those green points on the graph. And I should end up with a shape that is congruent to my first one. So let's go ahead and put all these points on the graph and see if we end up with a shape that's the same. Zero, 5, put him on the graph. And label him. That's my A prime. B is 2, 1, 2, 3. That is my B prime. Mine's new guy is going to be in gray over here. -3, 1. That's back 3 and up 1. That's my C prime. And -3, 5. Back 3 up. Back 3 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is my D prime. You should make your shape. And you should end up with something that's congruent. Let me see how big it is. Yeah? Did you draw it? Open your folder. Let's go. Did he end up the same size and shape? And then we need to make sure we answer the question.
Because it's rotating. I mean, I know it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's 270 counterclockwise, so that means he went backwards 270, but really that's the same as rotating clockwise 90. And now we need to go back and answer the question. What was the question they wanted us to do? What is the image of point B? So how would we answer? The image of point B is our B prime, right? And that's at what? 2, 3? Okay.
So I could have done this without drawing it, but it's better to draw.
Yeah. You definitely could have done this without drawing it. Now this question said to draw it. But like on the OST, they're not going to ask you to draw it. But if you drew it and you realized it was the wrong shape, then you would know you're wrong. If you never drew it and just trusted your rules, then maybe you would not. Okay, we're going to go to number 4. 4 has 2 parts, so we'll just do part 1 of it, and then we'll do part 2 tomorrow, okay? Day after tomorrow. I have school tomorrow. Boo! Okay, I know, life sucks. What are the coordinates of A prime? A prime. After ABC is rotated 180 degrees about the origin. So if I see origin, what's that tell me I'm allowed to do? I'm allowed to use the table. Okay, so I am allowed to use the table. Okay, so that means what do you think I have to start by doing?
You have to move left and right.
Let's write down our points. So we got A, B, and C. And then we got to look at our tables and see what our rules are going to be. So you want to do the points first or the rule first? Points? Okay, let's just get the points first, and then we'll go and look at the rule. What's point A? Bless you. 0, 1. What's point B? 5, 1. And point C? 0, 4. Okay, those are our points. Let's go back to our table and tell me what the rules are. Let's do them both ways. So, the rule is to negate left and right. Left and right. And if we memorize the XY business, what's that?
It's going to be
Negative X and negative Y. So that means you are not flipping the X and the Y back and forth. You're just negating. In other words, changing the signs. So basically, you keep everyone where they belong and change the sign of everybody. Okay, so let's change the sign of everybody. Okay, what happens when I change the sign of everybody in 0, 1? What do I get? What's this? What happens when you change the sign of 0? Nothing. And negative 1? What's the next point going to turn into? Negative 5, negative 1. And the last one is going to turn into 0, negative 4. So these are my new A prime, B prime, and C prime. Go ahead and graph that and see if you end up with a shape that looks congruent to the original shape. How's he? Is he pretty? And we're not going to try to do part B today, but make sure you have this all done because we're going to be transforming some other one tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Okay, I would fold this and put him on page 34. That's where he will be glued when we finish him. Tuck him on page 34. And remember, this foldable should be all done, right? And glued on page 32. If it's not, get that finished. And remember also, you got this worksheet last Thursday to work on by yourself, so that should be done. Well, it's okay. You have the day off tomorrow, so make sure you get all caught up. Remember, it's 1:45. Yeah, because we have conferences.